Good afternoon and welcome back to another instalment of the Formula 3 Cup. We're live here at Silverstone National for round number 3 of the 2021 season. A look back of what happened earlier on today. Stefano Lini won his two races earlier on today. Tony Bishop third, his best result of the season so far. John Corbett as well, he finished second place, a great result for him. Dominic Paul as well, 6th place. He struggled with overall pace in the dry conditions. James Winslow, a 4th place finish. Of course, a great start to the season as well. Shane Kelly as well, 5th place finish. He had a fairly quiet race. And George Lyons as well, DNF. Not looking good for the 2016 champion, but let's go back on board for another lap. If you don't know the Silverstone National Circuit, 1.6 miles in length, 6 turns in total. We last raced here earlier on today, but the last time the season was fully here, it was 2017, and that new lap record has been absolutely shattered now. We're 2 seconds faster, of course, so great pace that we saw out there. And of course on this lap here, you can see they're reaching that top speed, 5th gear in the car, almost touching 6th. But heavy on the brakes before we get to that section, and then down in towards 3rd gear as we brake for Brooklands here. This is where, again, we saw some great overtaking moves in the previous races earlier on today. Round Luffield on the nice dry track that you can see on the screen. On that power again, nice and smooth as we're on board with Stefano Lini here. And then he'll head across the line to finish the lap here around this 1.6 mile long circuit. Now that footage there looked dry, and this footage here looks lovely and dry as well. But I can tell you right now that the heavens did indeed open and the track is absolutely soaking out there. Chaz Draycott, you join me again in the commentary box. Weather conditions, like we said, massively different from this morning.
Yes, indeed. We suddenly had a very, very quick shower earlier. We could see it making its way over to the circuit. There's still a humongous shower on its way over to our right-hand side away from Woodcote as well. And there is a slight dry line appearing in the race that's currently going on before this. There's a lot of standing water offline, though still quite a bit of standing water online as well. So, to be honest, everywhere seems quite treacherous out there, but I think we're going to see some very tactical driving here, people looking for the wet racing line on the outside of some of these corners.
I think you could be right indeed. Now, obviously, because that rain just came down, hopefully Bryn Lucas had an umbrella. Bryn, are you wet or are you dry down there?
Thanks very much for asking. Yeah, none of your own business. No, I tell you what, I do have an umbrella, but it's in the boot of my car, so I'll get that out later on. The rain has stopped. Chaz is right that there is a bit of a dry line appearing out on track, but I'm just not sure how dry the dry line is. I think it's all relative, really. There's a lot of spray being kicked up. I'm just glancing over my shoulder right now looking at Brooklands, and there is a lot of spray being kicked up. I'm not sure it's going to be a dry race by any stretch of the imagination. And if you have a look at the cars, you can see they've gone for the wet weather tyre. They have a choice of wet or dries here, so they're not going to go slicks in these conditions because that would be completely insane. So they've gone for the wet tyre, and I think it's going to be quite an exciting race. So the last race, 7 cars, we saw that, well, our man here just disappeared off, didn't he? 16.5 seconds ahead he was. The reigning champion Lini, 16.5 seconds he won that race by. It was a lot closer further back, and we're going to catch up with a couple of the drivers about that, really. To my right here, let's have a quick look at this number 8. It's a beautiful, beautiful looking car. Just glance over there and we'll see it really in all its glory. And we're going to give a little chat to Dominic in just a few seconds because we're still waiting for a couple of cars to arrive. So actually let's dive into Dominic, see if we can get a word with him. Dominic, how are you doing? It's nice and dry now, but it might not stay like it.
You say it's nice and dry now?
Now, yeah.
Have you seen the circuit?
It's not dry on track, but it's dry at the moment.
It's not raining. I don't think it's going to rain anymore, actually, because the wind's coming from the southwest. It's over there, and the clouds aren't there. So I don't think it's going to rain anymore, but the track's obviously wet, so it's going to dry out as the race goes on, I reckon.
Yeah. Do you think we're going to get to the stage where the track will be fully dry? I'm looking, there is a dry line, but it's not completely dry. There's still a lot of spray being kicked up.
I think there'll be a good dry line from about halfway onwards, I should think, and then that line will widen. So yeah, I think it will get quite interesting about halfway through the race because tyres will start going off.
Now we've seen you racing a lot in your career in tin tops, really, with GTs as well. So what was the move for you, the switch to open?
And it's a different style of driving. So I did a bit in the Le Mans prototypes, which are downforce, but this is more downforce again. And I just thought it would be really good to kind of get to grips with a very high downforce, quick car. And they're great fun to drive. I
was going to say, is it that it's just pure pleasure to drive these? Is it hard work or has it come to you quite nicely?
It is hard work. I mean, it's much harder on your neck and your arms because the G-forces are higher than in GT cars, and GT cars have air conditioning, and these definitely don't. So it is harder work, but that's part of the fun of it. Actually, I think it's more physical, and the car is just a very raw, pure racing car, so they're great to drive. Yeah,
but they're brilliant to watch as well. And we wish you the best of luck out there. Hopefully, it will be a nice dry one. Well, though you've got your wet tyres, and you're probably not. No, you don't want a dry one now.
I quite like it to stay wet.
Good luck. There we go, nice little chat there with Dominic. And as I say, we are used to seeing him in British GTs and other forms of series. Let's head to the back, though, to car number 15. We'll take a little glance at it as well as you approach it. It's got a nice, decent look at the car as we go near as well, because it is quite a long way back on the track. And George has had a bit of a problem, really. George didn't finish that last race. 2016 champion here, and he won it by a single point, actually, over Shane Kelly. So let's have a quick chat with George. I know that he's got his team with him right now. They're trying to kind of few discussions about tactics, I think, here as well. Let's see if we can dive on in just a sec. We've got one more car arriving, and that should be the full complement. Yeah, it is the last car arriving now. We've got George here. There's one other driver I do want to catch a little word with as well, and this is the man coming up now. They are beautiful, beautiful cars, and we might actually make our way down there and try and get a word if we can't get to George. Let's see if I can butt in with George for a second. Chaz, can we butt in for 2 seconds? Yeah. George, we were looking earlier on. You've had a few problems with the car today. Do you want to tell us what's been going on?
It's not really the car. It's more the other drivers at the minute. We've had 2 races and 2 DNFs, so hopefully we'll try and get a finish in this one, and that'll be an improvement for the weekend.
So I don't think we caught it on camera what happened in the last race, and what happened from your perspective?
So the first race, we got a good start, came to the second corner and just got smashed up behind us. Took out all the gearbox and everything, so it was a bit of a late night for everyone to get the car all set up. And then that last one, we were down the outside of someone, came to the right-hander, and they sort of didn't really leave us any space. I tried to get out of the way and on the brakes, but they were still turning right, so we ended up with no front nose. So yeah, I'll try and keep out of the way this time and just do our own thing, I think. Yeah,
especially when you need to have sort of deep pockets and long arms, don't you, when you get these sorts of bits of damage to your car?
It's expensive enough as it is without damage bills.
So speak to your team, what was it like last night getting the car fixed up?
Oh, good. Got it finished at 10:30 at night. Just crack on, get it done, get out today, and that's the thing.
They make it sound easy, George. Nice and easy for you. No, you didn't. No, I'm sure. Best of luck today, and we'll catch you after. There you go. So George Lyons there, the champion from 2016. A brilliant championship win for him over Shane Kelly by that single point. And Shane Kelly has pushed him the entire way. We've got the noise, so they are going to be cracking on. We won't get a chance to have one more interview, but never mind, never mind. We'll get out of the way, and we'll leave you in the more than capable hands and voices and nose bits and all the rest of it of Chaz and Anthony. Over to you.
I'm not quite sure how capable my nose is, to be honest, Bryn, but thank you very much, mate. But he's right indeed. Anthony Jordan and Chaz Draycott here in the commentary box at Woodcote, and this is going to be a very intriguing one with these changeable conditions, because now the sun's slightly out again, but more importantly, the rain has stopped, so the cars are going to be what transfers the heat to the road most.
Well, I don't know what track you're looking at, but I don't see any signs of sunshine. I see dark cloud everywhere, and more on the subject, I can see more rain coming off in the distance. But more importantly, let's have a look at the grid of what's going to be going on for this one as they line up. Stefano Lini is going to be starting on pole position with John Corbett alongside on the front row. James Winslow is going to be starting in 3rd place on the 2nd row alongside with Tony Bishop as well. Shane Kelly in 5th place with Dominic Paul in 7th place. George Lyons rounding out the grid. 2 DNFs, of course, for the 2016 champion. But I'm sure he's going to be wanting to capitalise on these wet weather conditions and hopefully get a good result in on this one. They line up on the grid, and of course, we always get that formation lap first. They line up on the grid, but then they get that time to warm up those tyres. And what have you spotted there?
It looks to me like there's a bit of a move around on the grid there. George Lyons has gone into 6th place ahead of... It's Dominic Paul.
Yeah, it is Dominic Paul, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're just saying now, no, you've gone in the wrong spot, mate. You're going to be over there, or either that, or he's just said, you know, we'll let you go on the warm-up lap anyway. Just make sure you go in that spot when you get there next time round.
Yeah,
because it is definitely Dominic Paul ahead of George Lyons, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, there's no need to waste time now and change them. And of course, the brilliant track marshals here at Silverstone know that, and of course, they'll just let them go. But just a friendly word to just say, you're in the wrong spot. go there next time.
Yeah, learn again for next time, mate.
Yeah, exactly. But
so
they head out now for their formation lap. Green flag flutters just in front of our static camera on the start gantry there. Great pictures here, of course, from Alpha Life, and we do thank them for these fantastic pictures as well. And, of course, all the cameramen who are now braving these treacherous conditions out there. I'm sure they're all wrapped up nice, warm and dry, hopefully.
We don't have to worry about that too much in here with having a roof over our heads, but I suppose that's part of, you get spoiled a little bit sometimes being a commentator. We're here at Woodcote as well, and we're actually very close to the presence of the wonderful and legendary Ian Titchmarsh as well, a couple of comms box down, which is always a delight to see Ian. However, you're stuck with us today, I'm afraid, but
unfortunately,
it's, I mean, look at the spray there, even though it's not raining now. Just the cars weaving around, not even at full race pace.
Yeah.
Obviously, it may be a bit exaggerated because they are weaving, so they're spreading it in the complete width of the circuit, but still quite a lot of standing water down there. I mean, in front of us here at Woodcote, it does look like there's definitely a drier line, but it's still very wet in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's what's going to make it tricky for overtaking. Yes, okay, they're on the wet tyres, but still offline where all that standing water is, it's still going to be tricky to get side by side for a decent overtake. Last race out that you saw here on the stream, we saw, obviously, Stefano Lini leading the way for pretty much the majority of it, but keep an eye on the man who's starting in third place, James Winslow. He can get these cars off the line like anything. He had an absolutely fantastic run, and I think they're going for another warm-up lap. Yeah, I think they are. Yeah, so they're going for another formation lap. So, yeah, James Winslow, obviously a fantastic driver in the invitational class, but he can really get these cars off the line. And he showed actually in race 1 yesterday, even in these sort of same conditions, that he can get it off the line quickly in these conditions. So, yeah, he's definitely going to be a one to keep an eye on.
And he's got a few more cars to overtake this time as well with the start of this one, starting in third place instead of starting on the front row in second. He definitely had Stefano Lini off the line, and you know he said that in his interview afterwards, but he was more Stefano Lini by the end of the race because that's all he did. He just absolutely flew for it. It only took 2 corners for him to get the lead back as well from Winslow, but hopefully with the wet conditions, as I described earlier, it's a different bag of talent needed for this sort of racing. Some of the drivers are just really good in the wet, and there's not really any way of explaining it. They just understand the grip and the conditions better. It's how you learn a track, and some drivers have the ability to just identify where the grip is and where it's potentially transitioning to on a different line, or just pick up each corner as it is. So I think we may see a bit of a mixed result here, potentially still with Stefano Lini at the top of it.
Well, James Winslow, slow by name, but not slow on track.
Well, will he win slow?
Well, yeah, he doesn't win slowly, does he?
It's a bit of a contrasting name.
He wins
win slow.
He wins quickly out there. Yeah. There we go. So, drivers making their way out of Luffield again, and it looks like we're going to be gridding up this time around. Again, if you are joining us on the stream, welcome, and please do make sure you get your comments in. We'd love to have a good read of them after the show, and of course, if you are enjoying what you're seeing, make sure you do like that stream, and if you want to continue to enjoy what you see, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that little notification bell as well, so you don't miss out on any future videos from the Alpha Live production team. So here we go then. Race number 3 of the weekend. There's a look at the clouds over the circuit. The rain is looming all over the place, but we line up. Now this is going to be unfortunate then for a couple. Now what do you think is going to be the better place to start from? The dry line or the wet line?
I'd say the dry line for initial traction, and probably any traction at all, let's face it, but we'll have to see how they get on. Only one way to find out, Anthony.
Only one way to find out indeed, and we're about to. Green flag up at the back, the revs rise, lights are on, and out they go, and we're away for Formula 3 Cup. It's race 3 of the weekend, and in towards turn 1 again. James Winslow, fantastic start and straight into the lead, but has he run wide at the exit of turn 1? And John Corbett as well is looking to try and get the inside of Stefano Lini as well. As they go down, heavy braking in towards Luffield. The spray, they've gone, they've disappeared. You can't see them, they scream into shot now. Stefano Lini down the inside. James Winslow closes that door, and look at that. John Corbett round the outside's got the traction and gets past the 2-time winner of this season and the previous 2020 champion in towards the Brooklands hairpin. And is it going to be Stefano Lini down the inside? Yes, of course it is. Of course he was going to do it, but can he hold it? He can't, because Corbett fights back and holds on to that position. And who's that creeping into the background in fourth place? It is Shane Kelly. Great start from this one as we end the first lap.
Yeah, Shane Kelly just waiting in the wings there, trying to take the opportunity. He's actually looking around the outside of Stefano Lini there. Just behind him, we've got the number 21 machine of Tony Bishop. He's then got Lyons and of course Dominic Paul chasing him as well. But a really good start for Winslow once again. Manages to really please my OCD with the order, although Shane Kelly changes that as he goes ahead of Tony Bishop that time round. Whole field only separated by 3.2 seconds though, but it's the number 4 of James Winslow leading the way. Stefano Lini's going to be trying to fight back as quickly as possible now. Maybe not as hurriedly as he would have done in race 1. He's got a lot more time to do it. That's a really wide line by John Corbett. Great run by Stefano.
Yep, John Corbett run very wide there, out of the hairpin of Beckett's, and of course now down the start-finish straight, down the outside into Brooklands. Can he sweep round the outside here? He'll have the inside in towards Luffield. Yes, he can. And that is a great overtake from Stefano Lini. Gets back into second place, but now he's got some work to do because James Winslow has opened up a slight advantage. It was 0.6 when they last crossed the line, I should say. What is it going to be as they cross the line this time around? Has it opened up or has it closed up? What's it going to be? 0.6 last time, or has it stayed the same? No, it's 0.5. Half a second it is now. So he's closing that gap, and you can see there straight away through Kopp's corner. He has seriously closed that gap. Again, they disappear into the spray. Are we going to see a lunge here? No, we are not. So again, a great start, but all eyes on that front two.
Yeah, he's just going to take some time now to identify any opportunities to get past James Winslow, see where he is quicker than him. He knows that he's got the pace on that car in a straight line, especially when he's got the slipstream as well. Winslow moves over one way and then the other. Lini's going which way? And that way, he says, round the outside into Brooklands. Makes Winslow going a little bit deep. He's going to try and switch it round there. They've been hanging really, really wide around the outside of Luffield, and he's going to do it again. He did it the other day, did Lini, although he leans on it too much, ironically by name. Lini by name, Lini by nature. Back down the inside for Woodcourt. It's not working for him there, and somehow Winslow holding on. Lini's going to get another switch back. Now Winslow defends the inside line. The cameraman thought they were going to be on the right, but they're on the left, Anthony.
I think Tony Bishop has said to James, don't worry about the car. You race it, son, as much as you like, because they are side by side through Kopp's corner again. That was absolutely fantastic. Stefano Lini running wide there, has to yield. Can't hold on to that position. Into the braking zone once again of Maggots and Beckett. And again, it's still James Winslow who leads the way. Now, as you were saying, last time around, of course, he's tried to copy that move he did yesterday in the wet race. He couldn't do it. James Winslow is learning about the moves and places that Stefano Lini wants to get that move done. Defensive driving again, switching to the outside, throws in the dummy, dives it back down the inside. Stefano Lini again takes the lead. What a move and what a battle from these two titans.
That was absolutely incredible stuff. Great commitment from Stefano Lini, especially in the wet as well. Really confidently chucked it one way, then the other, managed the weight transfer beautifully, and the car was planted to be on the brakes. Now, they've not lost Corbett behind them, but Corbett has lost Kelly. There's a bit of a battle going on at the back as well between Dominic Paul in the number 8 machine and George Lyons in the 15. They've swapped places, I believe, twice in this race so far. A little bit further off the back of the field, unfortunately, but what a brilliant move that was by Stefano Lini. Nothing's going to come close to that, and he can be very pleased with the two different ways in which he's taken the lead back off Winslow in just one day.
Yeah, here's a look back at 4th place. Shane Kelly, again, a good start from him, leading in his class as well. We spoke to the team earlier on today, and we spoke to Shane as well, and, you know, they seem very happy with the car. They seem very happy with the setup. The team, mostly of university students as well. Most of them, a few weeks ago, hadn't even seen a racetrack because they've all been locked away in isolation due to COVID-19. They're back now at racetracks, and that's going to happen. Let's have a replay then of what just happened then for the overtake for the lead. I believe we've got that here, it appears here. So now you can see in the inside, James Winslow holds that inside line, throws the dummy though to Stefano Lee and just sends it down the inside. We saw him try to make that move similar on the earlier lap. He couldn't get it done, but managed to get it done this time around. A fantastic overtake from the champion from last year. Under 10 minutes to go, and you were pointing out the window. What did you spot?
Yes, Dominic Paul and George Lyons are now closer than ever. They're actually 2 tenths apart as they cross the line, a little bit further down the order. So even though they are a bit further off the back of the pack, they're still having a good dice. Now we're just looking then at John Corbett. There he is. He's actually staying with James Winslow a little bit here, but he's not quite got the pace advantage that he had in the dry earlier on. There's the last two on the circuit. George Lyons, Dominic Paul just in front of him. Shane Kelly just getting over to the left-hand side of the circuit in a bit of the wetter part of the track just to keep the tyres at a decent operating temperature. And that's one of the things these drivers really have to consider here. You've seen them missing apexes completely because they're staying on what is the wetter part of the track, keep the tyres at that optimum temperature. There really is an art form to wet weather racing, isn't there? And there's a lot more of it on the way by the look of it. I've just looked out the window.
Yes, there is a lot of clouds over just roughly near where the wing is on the Silverstone Silverstone circuit. Of course, we're on the national layout, so we're quite far away from the wing because the Silverstone circuit is so large, but it is heading in this general direction, which is quite terrifying to look at, especially with 8 minutes to go in this one. It could very well hit us. We could get another a rain shower.
Could
now,
be 8 seconds.
Now, out on circuit, you can see there isn't much of a dry line forming. There is a lesser line. Always running wide goes Dominic Paul there. And that is going to allow George Lyons to move up one position in towards 6th place. Of course, the driver not managing to finish a race so far this weekend is wanting to capitalise on that and is doing so. Here's a look further up. This is the 21 of Tony Bishop. Again, he had a great running in the previous race. Tony Bishop finished 3rd, of course, is his best result of the season so far. And he is doing a stellar job at the moment. 5th place for him, 3rd in class, though. But 8 minutes left on the timer, and that gap for the lead, 4.5 seconds now. So as soon as Stefano Lini gets that clear air, it seems he's gone in with a win, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's what we call a Vettel-esque performance, because we all say that, you know, Sebastian Vettel put him in a fast car and he'll drive away at the front. Lini's showing us a similar performance to that now, but the only difference is that Lini can race in traffic. Lol. Anyway, John Corbett is ahead of these pair now. Shane Kelly sat in 4th place, like you said there, Anthony, leading his class. He's got the bright yellow flashes on that car from Tony Bishop right behind him of Team Fox Racing. They've got 3 cars running this weekend, Winslow, Bishop and John Corbett. And to be fair, if they get Tony Bishop ahead of Shane Kelly, all 3 of them will be in the top 4, with only Lini ahead of them for CF Racing.
Indeed they are. So round Lovefield, you can see there Bishop with the tighter line out of the corner. Now whether or not that's going to hinder his performance down the main straight, it doesn't look like it's doing so, as he's in the slipstream. Pulls slightly out to just try have a little look in that mirror, just saying, I'm here, I'm here, you haven't got away, just letting him know that Bishop's there.
Yeah, you just got to keep the pressure on like that as well, especially when you're not in a direct position to overtake someone imminently. You've just got to make sure you're reminding them and get in their heads, because let's face it, so much of motorsport is all about the mental game. You have to really get in your opponent's heads, and if you can do that in a physical way in the race by just popping out behind them from out of the slipstream, maybe even just getting a bit of visibility, staying out of the spray, it just gets to them and it adds that little bit more pressure than you might not have had a little earlier on in the race. But even so, a good chase so far by Tony Bishop, because with the spray considering, and obviously maybe a bit of aero wash in some of the quicker corners, especially the left-hander into the Maggots and Beckett section, it would be a real nightmare for him to be following right now, but he's doing a good job of it.
Yeah, doing a very good job. And of course, if Shane Kelly and Tony Bishop start battling, you can see there whizzing past. Look at that car just looming in the background. George Lyons, number 15, is slowly reeling them in with absolutely nothing between these two. Any scrapping that they do is going to capitalise on George Lyons closing up, and that's what he wants. You know, he's had a tough season, start to this season so far, and he wants to gain as many points as he possibly can. Out of the corner there, did I see some potential hand gestures there from Shane Kelly as he went round? I'm not sure if I did see a hand coming out the top, but look how defensive he is here, right off the racing line there. But down the inside, is Tony Bishop going to have a look? No, he can't. It wasn't close enough there, but again, he's showing that he's eyeing it up. He's showing that the mental game is coming into factor, and look who's closing up. George Lyons now right behind.
Yeah, the mental games have really started now with Tony Bishop, and to be honest, it's all just about winding it up, making sure that he puts the pressure on enough to Shane Kelly that he knows he's there, but then if he keeps chipping away at him, he's just making his intentions clear, isn't he? Let's face it. The spray didn't look as bad on that shot then for some reason, but maybe just because they'd fanned out a bit more on the previous lap. But now, like you say, George Lyons is really with them. He'll be relishing this opportunity here to try and get involved in a fight, because he has had a very tough weekend, bits of contact in both races putting him out, and now the car is back up and performing as well as he wants it to be, especially in these tricky conditions. It looks like he's in for a good fight here. We've got 7.3 seconds last time round from race leader Stefano Lini to James Winslow. Lini's just coming around the final corner at Woodcote now, but we keep our eyes on this three-way battle here, Anthony, because any little mistake could really open this up.
Oh, it really could indeed. Now, you would definitely say at this point that George Lyons is closer to the back of Bishop than Bishop is to the back of Kelly, which is not what we saw a couple of laps ago. So we'll keep a very close eye on this one as they exit out of Woodcote across the start-finish line. 4 minutes to go, but we start lap 11 of this third race of the weekend, and through Copse Corner we go. borderline flat out in the dry conditions and in nice conditions as well. I suspect not so much right now.
No, you'd have to be a little bit brave, to say the least, going into there. But funnily enough, though, it was actually Bishop got an unbelievable run out the final corner. He was only just over 0.3 of a second behind Kelly across the line, and then Lyons was only another just under 0.4 of a second further back from him. Sorry, another 0.7 of a second. I was trying to do the maths and add it together, but that's the actual difference. Lyons is actually closed up a lot more in the first sector now, though, so it seems that Bishop, as he comes out the final corner, gets a really good run, but everywhere else on the lap, if I can put my teeth in, just loses out that little bit, and now George Lyons is the one putting him under pressure.
Yep, you can see it now, right on the tail of Bishop. George Lyons then, with no race finishes to his name of the 2021 season so far, is wanting to gain any points he can this time around. 3 minutes left on the timer, and I'm sure there's plenty of time, because look at that. That's in lunge distance, I would think it would be, in towards the Maggots and Beckett section of the track. Are we going to see a lunge down the inside like we've seen in other classes? Oh, I thought we were there into the heavy braking zones. Got the inside line, though, but cuts across the nose. Does Tony Bishop and says, oh, not just quite yet, Sunshine. You've got to work a little bit harder to get that position.
Yeah, just forced him a little bit wide. You know, to be fair to Bishop, he gave the space. It was almost like he anticipated that he'd run wide with that little dive. It's helped out Shane Kelly a little bit, who's moved slightly away from them, and now Bishop has to try and rectify that gap. But George Lyons is looking very racy here. He's taking some very different lines to Bishop in front of him. But Bishop's taking a very
big
odd line.
moment there.
He's lifted it off the ground as well as it bounces across the curb.
Good recovery.
Yeah, nice little 360 to style it out, but the gravel just really upset the rear of the car, and he does continue, though. It's easy to stall these things when you spin like that, so fair effort there from Bishop, but a real shame to see it happen.
Dramatic stuff there from Tony Bishop at the exit of Luffield. Clips that gravel, sends it into a full 360, doesn't stall it, gets it back in the straight and narrow, and amazingly doesn't actually come into the pit lane. He came back out. He's just like, oh no, I'm not pitting for that one, I'll come back out. Yeah. But now that's going to mean that it's going to be George Lyons versus Shane Kelly now. Tony Bishop is out of the equation. He's now 10, 11 seconds further down the road after that spin, but with 1 minute 40 seconds left on the road, what can George Lyons do?
Well, don't forget, this is the battle for the class lead as well in the what is just known as the F3 Cup class. We have the three classes today, F3 Cup, F3 Euro, and the invitational driver of James Winslow. These two fighting for class honours right now, both of them with support of the University of Wolverhampton as well. So some real bragging rights are at stake here, as down the inside goes George Lyons, gets a really good run out of Woodcote, looks down the inside into Copse. Nice tidy move there, Anthony. You've got to love that.
Oh yeah, very clean, very well calculated, just a great drive out of the Woodcote corner there. Into the braking zone, then we go of Maggots and Beckett. With less than a minute to go, it's good that that move's done and doesn't let any space back. So George Lyons now up into P number 4. But back at the front, Stefano Lini, he's on probably his final lap as he crosses the start-finish line now. It definitely doesn't take this long to get round a track. Here he is on your screen. Look at the spray kicking up there from the race leader, but all on his own as the dark clouds again looming over the circuit. I don't think they're going to hit us before we reach the end of this race, but a fantastic running from him so far.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you just look at the body language of that car and the thing just looks pointy. Looks like it's really got some poke to it. And Shane Lini, sorry, I'm getting two drivers mixed up. Stefano Lini really pushing hard and making it work, and he's working hard himself. So fantastic stuff from him. He will cross the line after the clock has ticked down to 0 this time around, but he's into Brooklands for the final time.
Yep, he is indeed. A great running then for the 2020 champion, showing his skills once again in the third race of the weekend. Out of Luffield, in towards Woodcote. He passes our commentary box and takes the checker flag for the third time this weekend to Stefano Lini. 14.4 seconds clear from second place James Winslow, who as well is coming out of the final corner now. He will scream into view, passes our commentary box and takes the checker flag as well. On your screen here, John Corbett, third place for him. Another fantastic result for the newcomer, well, not really newcomer, but a very great driver out there. Yes, it was 15.9 seconds from James Winslow at the end, but John Corbett crosses the line in third place. Great results.
And George Lyons wins the F3 Cup class as well. He'll be really pleased with that, especially after how torrid the weekend has been for him so far. A real shame for Tony Bishop, because that was looking like a fantastic fight, but in the middle of said fight, he just pushed that extra bit too hard, really upset the left rear, and he stayed in the power to try and save it, but unfortunately that was his undoing and chucked it across. Dominic Paul there chucks it across the line as well, just to finish out the race. 48 seconds between the race winner and 7th place. Really shows you the pace of Stefano Lini. That boy's on fire with 3 wins out of 3 this year.
Yep, a great result. And of course, in 2019, his first season, he got 6 wins and came 4th in the championship. He's already half that at the moment, so he's 3 wins out of that in the 2021 season. A round of applause, of course, from the marshals and, of course, the stewarding team from MSV. They congratulate him there as there's a look at the clouds that are looming over Silverstone. Silverstone, the weather conditions here can change in a heartbeat, can't they?
Yeah, and it's especially because there's so much real estate here at Silverstone as well. It's a massive circuit, very flat as well at Silverstone. So you do get a lot of wind across here. Obviously, it used to be an airfield, so it is naturally flat. And the wind that blows across it can just chuck the weather from one end of it to the next. It can bring in weather from anywhere else in the country, and it's just absolutely, you can't predict it. It is so unpredictable here. I love it.
As a look at your results then, Stefano Lini takes his 3rd race win of the weekend, and of course class win as well for F3 Euro. The Invitational driver James Winslow crosses the line in 2nd place and obviously wins his class. John Corbett in 3rd and 2nd in class overall. George Lyons again leading his class of F3 Cup, finishing in 4th place. Then it's Shane Kelly in 5th, Tony Bishop in 6th place, and Dominic Paul rounding out the grid of 7 cars. And, of course, all 7 cars started the race. All 7 cars finished the race this time around.
It makes a bit more of a difference when you've got a 7-car field and any attrition takes out just one of them, to be fair, from the entire weekend. So good to get all of them across the line there. And to be honest, it was still quite a close race throughout. I mean, we have them spreading out, obviously, in this field. As you can expect, you know, there's multiple different pace levels in this field, but there still was some good battling going on. And that drive through the field from George Lyons, that was what I was talking about earlier. It's how you bounce back from having a torrid weekend and drag a good result out of the car at the end of it. All of his team will be really, really pleased with that. A class win's always a good result.
Yes, indeed. Well, again, folks, do stick around because we will be chatting to Bryn Lucas and, of course, our race winner in just a moment. But, yes, I think we'll have a quick look at some of the replays that we saw from that race just to see a quick recap of what happened in that, well, I would say quite dramatic race. Here is, of course, the overtake for the lead between James Winslow and Stefano Lini, with Stefano Lini throwing the dummy and launching it down the inside there to take the race lead, and funnily enough, taking the race win as well after that one as well. Here's a look further back. This would have been the spin from Tony Bishop there, just running wide out of Luffield and just clipping that gravel. A nice 360, good recovery without stalling, and gets it back on the road to finish in 6th place. So a great running from there, and a look at the dark clouds, and there's the rain as the next group of cars actually making their way out on circuit. But we're not going to be watching that one. Of course, we're going to be heading down to the pit lane, hopefully, to chat to our race winner. But yeah, it just shows the difficult conditions out there, doesn't it? With just running a little bit wide, especially out of Luffield, it's straight to gravel.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to do that. The gravel upset the car, but then I think spinning up the rears on the wet paint as well didn't help, and that's what chucked it to the right. But as mentioned, we now have Bryn with us, or, well, not with us, he's down in the pit lane, with Stefano Lini.
Smooth, Chaz, smooth. Yeah, I've got Stefano. I've also got James as well. And have a quick chat. Let's go to Stefano first of all, because we caught you up earlier on and you finished 16.5 seconds ahead. Different conditions brought a very different race, but you still had a lot of control. Although the first 5 minutes as we were watching, you had some work to do.
Yeah, again, James had a stonking start. Slowed me down enough to get John to catch up with me as well. So I had the 2 Aussies to contend with, which made it really interesting because both really hard but fair racers, giving each other space. I tried around the outside the first time, but John was wise to that now. So I had to get a bit more creative, so I had to just make sure that I had the better exits and go on the inside rather than the outside this time. So, no, really, really good race, though, and the conditions were a lot wetter, but I think the times were not far off the same. So,
when you look at the conditions with the tyres you have, how much of an impact does the wet weather tyre have on these conditions out here? I mean, yesterday we saw you go out and have a few problems as well with the slicks. So does it give you that real confidence that when you chuck it into one of the corners here, you will come out the other side smiling?
Yeah, interestingly with the Michelins, I ran the Michelin wets, which are absolutely superb in the wet. they're really good when the track is wet. When the track is damp, they're no good. The Pirelli is the better tyre. However, although that was a lot wetter than yesterday, I was only a tenth slower in the wet today than I was yesterday in the damp. So it just shows that the tyre really enjoys the really wet weather conditions. So.
For you, is this good? You're learning more about the tyre each time that you get to sample these sorts of conditions, which you might not get to sample much this year.
No, it's probably been the most changeable weekend I think I've ever raced at. We've had damp, we've had just dry, we've had full dry, and we've had full wet. So we've had every single condition that you could possibly race in, which has been really interesting for the teams and the drivers to really get to know the car, but also the setup that goes with the tyre, because that has to be altered as well. So, and it's all been last minute because the heavens opened about 15 minutes before we went to the assembly area. So all the teams were rushing to get the car sorted and changed. So yeah, it was really interesting.
But then you have a nervous wait, don't you, thinking, well, maybe there's going to be a full dry line, but it wasn't. It didn't get to that stage.
Didn't quite get there. However, I was still having to cool my tyres down towards the end of the race. There was a damp line starting to appear, and that's what really damages the tyre. So as long as you're cooling them down on the straight and stuff, they seem to hold their temperature quite well.
It's a good weekend for you, though.
Yeah, been a really good weekend for me, and it's a good start to the year. So
well done.
Thanks, man. Cheers.
There you go, 3 races and a very, very happy man there, Stefano, winning all 3, in fact. Let's go over to James then. James Winslow, we saw James really put in a great battle in that last race. James, just talking about your great battle you threw on to Stefano there. You really made him work, particularly early on.
Yeah, I'm in the 2008 car. Less power, less aero, so I was having to open the toolbox and get out all the tools I've got, and I've had over 20 years to try and beat him. His car's just got a superior grip. Again, made a great start. That's 3 times I led into turn 1, so that's great. I feel like I did my job on that one, tick. It was a fantastic race. Like, I drove pretty hard then because Stefano's a great driver. He's obviously got a lot of potential to go on and do more in the future in motorsport and stuff, so I thought I would really push him and see what he's got. We had a great battle for 4 or 5 laps, side by side. Him on the wet line, me on the dry line, vice versa, side by side, banging wheels, and eventually he just squeezed past.
And what about your pupil, John, out on track as well? He's really been throwing the gauntlet down. He's been really, really performing well out there.
Absolutely. He's had an outright pole position this weekend. His first ever pole position. I've been with him for 5 or 6 years now. Team Fox is doing a fantastic job, and John Corbett has just slowly got better and better and better. He's going to drive at the Le Mans 24 Hours this year, so we're using this as our race experience and race start experience and just experience of pressure. He qualified on pole, fantastic, can't ask any more, and he's had a 2nd and 3rd in the races, so he's 2nd in the championship. Stefano's the benchmark for him, so we'll keep working at trying to catch him up.
And for you, briefly, an invitational to this event here, what's it like for you, these F3 cars and the F3 Cup? How important is it that we have this form of racing at this level as well? Because these are up to 2019, so these are cars that are kind of slightly out of date. Yours was a lot of out of date, but it's great to see them out on track.
Yeah, they changed the whole Formula 3 philosophy, didn't they? Formula 2, GP2 or GP3, F3, all changed. These for me are proper F3 cars, and they went up to 2019. There's no halo, but they're lighter, they've got more power, loads of aero. For me personally, with my worldwide motorsport, this is the best training for a driver wanting to do LMP2 or to go on to bigger slicks and wings. It's much more cost effective here. You can race in the UK Cup Series, I think, for a third or maybe even 25% of what you can in the British F3 Series. And again, this is like their apprenticeship in motorsports. You do 2 or 3 years in these cars with some good training, with a good coach, and you're ready for a career in motorsport, in my opinion.
Absolutely fantastic. Great to see you out on track as well.
Yes, great to be back in Formula 3. I haven't driven a Formula 3 car since 2013 at Bathurst, so I love these cars.
You made it look very easy.
Thanks very much.
Thanks so much to James. Thanks very much. So if you have a look around now, well, everyone's gone. Everyone's gone. James is going to wander off there in his fluorescent, luminous race suit. I mean, if you didn't see him coming, you'd certainly see him going, wouldn't you? Great to hear from these drivers. All the cars have gone. They're very, very quick to pack down at any race meeting, and particularly when the heavens have opened like this. So before the rain really comes and takes over, I'm going to say ta-ta for now. Chaz and Anthony, thanks very much for talking us through that race as well.